All right, welcome to the latest edition of the Rewatch Reaction Show. Paul Dehner Jr. and Charlie Goldsmith are here with you coming off the Bengals loss to the Green Bay Packers at Lambeau Field. You and I were there, Charlie. It had a little bit of everything. Every group was kind of good, was kind of bad. And I felt like there was, we were talking about it and you were like, you know what? There's little spots for everything in this one. And you had the idea of 4 quadrants. There are 4 quadrants that we can touch on in the Rewatch show today.
The classic lead, Green Bay hyphen. It was a tale of two halves. And yes, it was on offense and in defense. It was good defense, bad offense. And then it was good offense, bad defense. Beautiful day for Zach Taylor to drop the term complimentary football in his post-game press conference. That was kind of what we were talking about. Where did we start our conversation today? It was, there kind of were 4 quadrants of this game, 2 on each side of the ball.
So we're going to do that. We're going to talk about when the defense was good. We're going to talk about when the defense was bad. We're going to talk about when the offense was good. We're talking about when the offense was bad. We're going to hear from Dan Pitcher's going to join us in the coach's office, presented by R&A Marketing, and a little bit about some of the good and the bad of Joe Flacco, some of the good that maybe came from a play that you got. Speaking of compliments, you got a compliment on from Dan Pitcher for your astute observation, thanks. Charlie. I mean, we got to take our shout outs when we get them, own those wins, and you should.
It's funny. I thought you were talking about like the listeners recommended a play, like you, the listener. I was like,
no, well, you, the Charlie, the man who saw it and pointed it out. And
real quick tangent, real quick. You, the Paul, also recommended a play, the under center play action screen to Chase Brown. That went horrifically. So
went horrifically.
Paul
went horrifically.
0.
Maybe now they're going to have to wait another 2 years to run it again. Unbelievable.
I guess
I really was so excited when it happened. Even though it went poorly, I feel like they reacted to the fact that I was bringing up to them that they haven't run it again in 2 years. So if it had an impact, even in a catastrophic type of play, I'll take it. So we're going to get to all of that stuff. So Charlie, we should start with the good. So where do you start when we talk about some of the good of the Bengals defense?
Well, the money play was DJ Turner's interception in a terrific first half that the Bengals outside corner have. Sorry, DJ Turner tipping an interception to Geno Stone, but you know where I was going with that. And it hit on a theme that I really genuinely believe I've mentioned multiple times publicly, something Al Golden's doing a really good job with. So this is a rebuilding defense that's got a lot of fires popping up all over the place, a lot of leaks. You got to duct tape all at once. After week 2, Al Golden sits down with us, in the little media room, and he says, the third down defense is a problem. It's on me. I'm going to fix it. And now in 3 of the last 4 games, aside from the Denver game, but even the Denver game was more one-man breakdowns, the third down stuff has been really good. And it's not full, like, exotic Lou Anarumo mad scientist stuff, but there are real wrinkles that win the down, that put players in position to be successful. The latest was on this pick. It kind of started, the play got sped up because Barrett Carter blitzes up the middle and his speed makes an impact. And Demetrius Knight reads kind of a chip situation going on, and then kind of in a delayed fashion, he rushes in and fully speeds up Jordan Love, and then Jordan Love throws the ball. And there was, I believe, a defensive end dropping back in coverage. There's a lot of stuff going on, a lot of levers that are rotating around, and they're running the plays at a successful level, and the plays are working, and guys are having moments where they genuinely shine on third downs.
In one way, a bigger picture of what's happening with some of the stuff they're doing on third downs is you saw the first few weeks of the season, weeks really 1 through 3, Al Golden blitzing at a record low rate, just not doing it. There was none of that. And I think it was pointed out by a lot of us that saw, and I don't know if that's part of learning what he has and just kind of playing it safe generally defensively, whether that be by directive or design or whatever. But since then, he has shifted pretty significantly to being this bottom of the league rate of blitzing to entering in the upper half. Not not nothing crazy, not up there in the top 5 or whatever, but a lot more respectable in terms of keeping teams off balance. I think you've seen a lot more of that in what you're talking about on third downs, that teams do seem a little bit more off balance, and we've been critical of some of the stuff, the dropping of the edge rushers and the things like that. We saw that again in some spots, but sometimes it is working. And so I think you're seeing a lot more experimenting happening on third downs and generally with Al Golden's game plans.
I mean, who are the good defensive coordinators in the NFL these days? The defensive coordinators that effectively simulate pressure on third downs and keep you guessing with who's rushing it, who's dropping, and again, put guys in position to make plays. And the thesis I came up with last week when I did my third down deep dive was really this defense had 2 splashy guys, Demetrius Knight and Dax Hill. They were, your Von Bell, Swiss Army knife style, the one who moves around, who then's in a shiny spot to do something interesting that perks up your ears, that gets a note in your notebook. Like Vaughn was the one who did a lot of that back in the day. Well, now that's an outside linebacker and a slot corner. And I think part of the idea is Barrett Carter has some of that with his ability to blitz and just his pure speed and the versatility that allows, and he can genuinely drop back in coverage. I think the idea is he would give them 3. No, I was still stunned by the move from Wilson to Carter. But I bet part of the idea here is that Carter can be a part of that little lever gear shift going on third downs.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting. You kind of heard Zach Taylor tip his hand a little bit with us on Monday, and I was asking about just sort of the risk of doing the full takeover of Barrett Carter in this one, where Logan was 12 snaps he ends up with in this one. He's pointing out, I mean, there's risk, but the only way they're going to learn is by getting out there and doing it. And this was clearly a signal of, at some point, we're going to Barrett Carter. Like the writing is on the wall that this season they want to move to Barrett Carter. So they're getting him out there now and letting him learn now and be ready to be better as the season goes on.
One more thing on this, Logan Wilson, I only had him for 2 negative plays. None were even crazy over the course of the last couple of weeks. Logan had been fine, but one of them was a third down against Denver, where it's a game at the line of scrimmage, and Denver forgets to block Logan, and Logan is a straight shot, but he just doesn't quite get there. And Barrett's going to get there. And now, again, Logan Wilson, I think, is still a better player than Barrett Carter right now. But thinking about that third down combined with what we're seeing from these linebackers blitzing on third downs, and when you're wondering what are they thinking, maybe that's something that's on their mind.
All right. Let's take a second now, and I do want to remind everybody, if you are going Thursday to Bengals and Steelers, pop by our watch party. Well, not our watch party. Pop by our live show. You know what it is. We're down at BetMGM and Tom's Watch Bar. We will be giving away tickets to the Bengals and Jets game. We'll be offering up exclusive parlay boosts that are going to include a pro Flacco boost, and I'm playing the long odds for you on the Thursday night AFC North divisional thing. It goes way back. All these home teams doing these things on these short weeks are winning this division. So we'll see if that streak continues, but you can make money off of it if you come down to our show, only at our show, exclusive to coming down and hanging out with us. If you have questions, you want to stump Jay, you want to have some Grater's ice cream, you want to win tickets, you want to win other giveaways, you want to spin the prize wheel, all of that will be happening down there at 4:30 at BetMGM at the bank. So make it your stop. Pop down, see us, and then go on about your way in your tailgate, or just hang out. Great food, good beers, great time always down there at BetMGM and Tom's Watch Bar. Hope to see you there. Now, let's shift, shall we, into the coach's office presented by our good friends at R&A Marketing. We're going to talk to Dan Pitcher a little bit about some of the good and the bad that developed with this offense under Joe Flacco. A very clear delineation from the first 4 drives to beyond that. We've got a bunch of stuff we want to get to into why that would be, and Dan was great on that. And there's a lot to kind of dig into as the Bengals laid their first bit of the foundation of what the Flacco era is going to look like. Before we get to that, though, I do want to remind you guys by now, I hope you've made it over to our new website, thegrowlerpodcast.com. And if you have, you should know about R&A Marketing. They're the group that's been sort of the architect in helping us build our brand in the digital space. Not only do they sponsor this segment and support the podcast, but they're helping shape the future of our digital home. We chose them because we didn't just want a website. We wanted a strategic partner, and you can see their incredible work for yourself. Go visit them at ramarketing.com. They sort of built their reputation as a go-to agency in the competitive industry of high-end furniture and home goods, but that's not why I didn't bring them in here, because I want deals on couches or the hookup with lamps. It's because they know how to build premium brands and drive measurable growth. They can craft beautiful, high converting websites just like they're doing for us. They can do it for you. So whether you're in professional services, tech, consumer goods, building a personal brand, maybe you too have a podcast like everyone else and you need help, get R&A. The R&A playbook is designed to make you the premier choice in your market. I can't give any bigger endorsement other than to say we use them. So thanks to R&A for all the support they give to us here in Coach's office. So let's hop in here. And Charlie, let's talk a little bit about some of the bad that turned to good when we talk about what happened with the Joe Flacco debut. To me, and I asked Pitch about this, I brought up some of the stats. You have Joe Flacco in this game is 21 of 25 for 179 yards and a touchdown and 1 sack. When his time to throw was 2.5 seconds or less. It was incredibly efficient. He was processing quickly. And that particularly happened once those first 4 drives kind of went down. I have a little chart for you. I like having a nice little handy dandy chart here for you.
Good job, Paul.
This is the Bengals plays when the time to throw is 2.5 seconds or less by game this season. You can notice the difference in the middle 3, right? The success percentage goes from game 1, 57%, game 2 against Jacksonville, 59%, and then down to 47, 42, 35. Flacco comes in Green Bay all the way back up to 58% success percentage, keeping them in front of the sticks, keeping them out of bad situations, making a profit consistently. EPA per play as good as they'd been. The success percentage up there as good as they've been. Even found some explosives getting rid of the ball quickly for Joe Flacco. And that was really what developed as this game went on. I mean, it became a thing where Flacco got more comfortable taking those profitable plays. Here's a little bit of Dan Pitcher talking about Flacco and his development through that lens.
Well, I mean, I just think you look at the totality of it. He got here on a Tuesday in an offense he's never played in. Granted, we do a lot. I mean, everybody runs the same plays to some extent, but with their own twist. But new words, new people, didn't know any of us. None of us really knew him. And we operated. We went out there. We talked about being clean. We were in and out of the huddle. I think we had to take one time out in the second half down on the low red zone when we got down on it. But other than that, there's not pre-snap procedure issues. There weren't penalty issues. He took care of the football. He made some remarkable throws, particularly in the second half of that game. I mean, to just walk in the door and do that. Obviously, we didn't win the football game, and that's disappointing. But pretty impressive.
He was crazy efficient, getting it out fast. Under 2.5 seconds was like 21 of 25. I mean, how much is that kind of the key to unlocking you guys? Because you stay ahead of the sticks, you're always making a profit, you're not getting a second. Did you feel like that was kind of the key to really getting you guys going offensively?
I think so. I think it's part of it. I think there's some wisdom there in that style of play.
Mm-hmm.
You don't arrive at your 18th season in the NFL without having gotten to that point where you make some of those decisions. So yeah, I think it's helpful.
How much of the testament is that to just take the easy completions? If they're there, take the easy completions.
Take what the defense gives you. We talk about that all the time. Obviously, there's a balance between knowing when the time is right to take a bigger shot or try and extend a play, but you're never going to be wrong if there's an open receiver and you get him the football. And I thought he did a good job of that yesterday.
All right. So there's pitch. I mean, you hear him talking about, the wisdom in understanding the need to play that way. I want to bring you a couple of plays specifically. This first one from early in the game, Charlie, and this is the bad check down where Flacco wasn't quite seeing it in his, very early stages of this game. Here he is dropping back, and you have Tanner Hudson underneath, and it's just he's under pressure. He doesn't see it fast enough and doesn't get rid of it. Even though Tanner's sitting there, if you go back to the beginning here, Tanner is sitting there, arms out now. And the rest of the game, Flacco was hitting that at that point. In this game, he wasn't. He was holding it, looking a little bit further downfield, a little unsure of what he was seeing, and you end up getting that. You're in a bad down and distance. Fast forward, later in the game, sees it quick, Jamar, boom, staying ahead of the sticks, moving it forward. That was a second down and long. That made it third and medium. And again, he gets the ball. This is and he gets a conversion. Yeah, a free hitter was coming at him, but he gets rid of it quickly, knows where it needs to go, and gets it out there to T. Again, second and long, quick check down to Jamar right there. No hesitation. Take the profit. Know where it should go. Feeling comfortable with these guys now. Third down, the free runner comes down here off this outside. Catch, immediate throw. That might be his best throw of the game. Is just with the guy right in his face on a third down, gotta have it. He gets it there. I thought that was a huge part of this offense looking so different after those first four drives was Flacco's comfort in seeing that and processing and getting those checkdowns out quick.
There's a play I would like to take out of the Bengals playbook, and that is the play action pass with the pulling guard. Like if I made rules, I would say you can only do this if you have good guards, because we see a lot of their guards whiff. Those are the kind of concepts they look on to be explosive on early downs, especially with Flacco, because Flacco's not going to move. Those don't work. So you're not going to be explosive. You have to be efficient. That's exactly connecting to the point that what this is all about with Joe. Maybe there are different, shot plays here or there that you could try to mix in, maybe even a simple go route on a play action pass or something like that earlier in the drive. But those plays, again, just looked like a guy who had never run them before in the Bengals offense when Flacco did them. However, just the quick hitting, the underneath stuff, the snap your fingers, I call these bang plays because you say bang and it's there. And someone usually has a quick turn or a quick pivot or a quick comeback. That's what this game was when the Bengals offense was working. That's where you can capitalize on Flacco's arm strength to make those plays. That's where you don't incur the risks of here's a pulling guard, or here's Flacco trying to extend, or here's Flacco throwing with the guy in his face and he just spikes the ball into the dirt. It, to me, is all about early down efficiency with this offense, which is why, too, I think this game doesn't happen the way it does in the second half without the Bengals establishing some sort of rhythm on the ground like they did in the third quarter.
And we saw that, and that's where you end up getting a compliment. We're pointing out a little bit about the role that fifth-round rookie Jalen Rivers played in that. Here's that exchange with Dan Pitcher about Jalen Rivers.
It was a very small thing, but I feel like kind of what turned that drive to start the second half was like Jalen Rivers had some pushes.
Yeah, listen, that's a really good observation. He did twice, and those are small things that can get lost in the shuffle. there are some things definitely with Jalen yesterday that he needs to improve on, but you're never going to question his effort, his preparation, his maturity. Those are all qualities that I think will ultimately lead him to becoming a winning level guard in this league. So you absolutely point out plays like that. There were 2 on that drive that it's him finishing, and that was big.
Good for you, Charlie. It's good to get those every once in a while. We can be pretty soft and self-conscious sometimes about we're trying to make football observations with people who live deep in this world. Is every once in a while it's just nice to get a little pat in the back.
What was most startling, not startling, but important was finally the Bengals have that kind of finish on the offensive line. Like, it's been 3 weeks, just 3 weeks, since we're hearing Dan Pitcher say that there's this passivity. And I don't think he said confusion, but the points he was making, where he went with that. That was leading to a lack of aggression, a lack of physicality up front. And finally, you've got Jalen Rivers saying, you know what, I'm going to hit someone. And he pushed Chase Brown forward in some pivotal spots on that 17-play touchdown drive. Here's Samaje Perine on 3rd and 1. It's Rivers' second effort, pushes the pile forward, falls forward. Reisner kicks in celebration to celebrate that play. And I mean, this is 3rd and 1. This has been the Bengals' kryptonite when they run the ball like that in those types of gotta-have-it situations. But they did it here. Later in the drive, there was, I believe, a 9-yard gain to Chase Brown where Jalen Rivers created some money guards. And you can see it in both plays, really. Look how much ground Rivers covers to finish the second effort. Like, there were closer offensive linemen than that, but it's this type of hustle stuff that you just need to be good at when you don't have the quarterback. Let's just call it what it is. I'm not expecting Joe Flacco to perform at an above average level this season. You need to be good at those little details to find muddy yards, to create grimy first downs, to find some sort of anything on the run. And that's progress. And Jalen Rivers still probably on the whole had a not good enough game. Micah Parsons hunting him. And that'll continue from top edge rushers that they face. But you know what? A couple nice pushes can be the difference in some important high leverage situations.
Yeah, they can help you convert. And you just like to see somebody taking it upon themselves to be physical, to find a way to be physical and go out there and actually do it. And you're right. That is Jalen Rivers taking that upon himself. And I think that's the type of stuff that could keep his job.
Yeah.
Despite the struggles that he's having elsewhere, Lucas Patrick's going to be able to come back. He's going to be healthy here. And I think they look at it and say, I don't know. Maybe he doesn't. Maybe we don't put him in because is that type of stuff. At least Jalen is doing that. Is the stuff that keeps you in the game. And I think we're seeing that right now a little bit on the offensive side of the ball. Okay. Once again, I do want to remind everybody, our good friends at R&A Marketing, if you are looking to build your brand, professional services, tech, consumers, whatever it is, I can't give any bigger endorsement than to say that I give them my business. So if you visit them at ramarketing.com, that's ramarketing.com, schedule a consultation and tell them that the Growler podcast sent you. And always great to hear a little bit of the perspective from Dan Pitcher. So we certainly appreciate that. More of that to come from the coaches' offices as the year goes on. All right. Now let's talk about some of the bad defense. And there was a significant amount of it late in this game, Charlie. Where did you pinpoint when you were looking at the struggles that this defense had late in the game and kind of continues to have late in games when it matters?
Well, you start with the tackling, and you start with the fact probably most concerningly is that it felt like Green Bay copied a lot of stuff that Detroit did. And, let's just make these guys go forward kind of in that underneath layer getting to the second level. And that involves primarily the linebackers, but also defensive linemen dropping back in coverage. And it also involves Jordan Battle, who had a volatile game. And even at Jordan Battle saying, he told me post-game, like, sometimes I struggle with awareness. And you can say that about the rookie linebackers as well. You're just going to be living with this. So kind of like the bad defense play that I highlighted was the touchdown where no one fills the A gap, and you've got Barrett going one way, you got Demetrius going the other, and you got the running back running right up the middle for a touchdown. I did hear from or talk to Barrett Carter specifically about that play, and you can kind of feel his frustration as you hear him here talking about it.
Yeah, I mean, me and 44, we got to play it better. We definitely, when we got to the sideline, we definitely were mad about that play, just knowing that that's a play that we've repped in practice before, and that we had. It wasn't a new play for us. We definitely just got to be better with our fists and just knowing where our help is and where our gaps are. So we just got to play that better, and that's all it is.
There was that play. There was a play that Barrett also talked about where he just didn't see Josh Jacobs in a check down situation, and Jacobs scampers and comes up with a big gain. There was Jordan Battle, who I like the season he's having, but he has a thing he's got to fix, which is how he triggers pre-snap. He can get kind of fooled by cadence, or teams can say he's coming, and then they capitalize on that. He gets beat on play action. That happened on the play action rollout check down to the tight end for a touchdown, which was a big score in that game. Battle said at his awareness as well on the big 3rd and 8 conversion that essentially sealed it for Green Bay. And this is a young defense. These guys got to be better at that.
Let's talk about the 3rd and 8, Charlie.
Yes.
This is such a they worked so hard to get back into this position, offensively, even defensively, and you pull back within 6. They talked so much after the game about the momentum after the 2-point conversion to make it 24-18. Like, there was a feel of, we can go win this game. They just got to get the ball back to the offense. This was after the Stone sack, and they get it into 3rd and 8. Here it is. You get them into a 3rd and long with a chance to give the ball back to your offense that's moving the ball almost at will right now to go try to win you a game in Lambeau. And it's late in the 4th quarter. You need a play. And instead, you get this. And I'll just point out, hard not to say, man, this is the play you wanted 91, especially when you look at the way it went down. So here they come out. Let me just start. I'm going to stop it. It's a bad play when I should have to stop it before anybody really moves. Cam Sample is coming off the Trey Hendrickson spot, essentially. You have Osai was sort of roaming and landed in between Murphy and I believe Jenkins. Yeah. And so what happens, keep an eye. I mean, this is such a huge part of this. Cam Sample gets one chip from, I think it's Tucker Kraft, the tight end, and it takes him completely out of the play. He gets knocked sideways. He falls down. It's just over. Your edge rusher on that side is eliminated by one chip that he should have seen and did see coming. It changes the entire dynamic of this play because that happens. Jordan Love's time to throw on this was 4.3 seconds. That is, you can't ask your guys to go cover for 4.3 seconds, and I'll roll it out. Cam Sample taken out of the play. It opens up that entire side for Jordan Love to do something he does as well as any quarterback in football, is that kind of roll out and fire down the field. Check out this angle. Is a good angle on the Sample. Watch Cam Sample get chucked here on the side and get totally taken out of the play. Boom. It's over. Osai, who does catch free on the game that he's playing, has to go so far around Sample's corpse that he ends up being late to get to Love before he unloads. And that's a huge problem, and that's where you miss Trey Hendrickson here, Charlie.
Can we talk about the secondary on this play? Because I have a thought here.
Shall we?
So you've got that kind of trip stack on the left side, 3 receivers kind of basically in a triangle. I call this the Monstars formation. I don't know why, but I do. They're kind of in a triangle here, kind of, squad team assemble triangle formation, Delta formation. So the Bengals counter like they always do. They practice this every Friday with 3 cornerbacks kind of stacked up to match them, right? And you can see there's a motion, so they follow that. Good job with the motion. They didn't used to always follow those motions. You can see DJ Turner follows his guy down the field. You can see Josh Newton follows his guy down the field. Then there's Cam Taylor-Britt on Matthew Golden. Cam Taylor-Britt drops back. Golden breaks to the left. That would be across the field where Jordan Battle is the post or the high safety on his half. Sometimes you pass that off. Famously, Mike Hilton passed that off to, I think it was what it would be, Von Bell on the tipped interception in the AFC title game that the Bengals won. They passed off that crossing route to Tyreek Hill. Tip, they get the pick, Bengals going to the Super Bowl. There was no communication from what I can see, no point, no nothing, and clearly no communication executed because Cam's, I guess, passing off Golden or he just lost him. And Battle's facing the wrong way. And Battle said, I got to be more aware on the play, but he's dropping back. By the time Golden breaks towards the Bengals sideline, Battle's toast. Golden's a speedy receiver. Battle's facing the wrong way. I think Cam just needs to stick with that and plaster and stay with the man. But instead, it just looked like a communication mistake. And I go back to the factor that, everyone else on this field is playing man. And Cam just lets off and communicates unsuccessfully, or Jordan communicates unsuccessfully. Something happens there that results in, once the play gets extended, a matchup the Bengals just can't win. And you got to be better than that.
Yeah, there's a big what is Cam doing that comes out of this. And
then
I think,
one more thing, there's a point. There's also a point right here. He says something to someone. There's clearly some sort of confusion after the play at the end there.
Yeah, and that's where you get the Monday answer that is, we have to evaluate everyone. Boy, if a question is about you, you really don't want Zach Taylor's answer to be, we have to evaluate everyone, because it means he's evaluating you, and you're probably not going to like it. I think this is the type of play, Charlie, that gets Josh Newton into the game. Next week on Thursday.
Yeah,
it's just these things. It's easy for us to sit here, and we can sit here and talk about the ball over top of him to Golden earlier in the game, or the defensive hold in the end zone, and those aren't great. I'm sure they're not graded out well. Cam has to get his head around and see the ball, even if he has tight coverage. That's, but he's competitive there. He's there covering. He's in the right spot. This stuff is the stuff that gets you benched. This stuff, if you're not communicating, you're just running downfield on 3rd and 8 to leave the opportunity of the game out the window. It's just not good enough.
Now that, I think about this play even more and what it was and what it reminds me of, it also reminds me a lot of, and this is a random pull, but how the Texans and CJ Stroud carved the Bengals secondary up in 2023. And I remember going through those plays and who was at fault, and they weren't corners, it was safeties, but those were the plays that got Nick Scott benched for Jordan Battle. Like, it was this exact same pass-off stuff, communication down the field on throws, on what felt like deep crosses over the middle. Like, that's exactly what it was that got Nick Scott benched for Jordan Battle on a short week heading into Baltimore. And seeing that play just now, even again, reminded me of that. It's reminded me that obviously that was Lou, but there is a track record of personnel changes being made when mistakes like that get made.
All right. That important, truly critical play is kind of an encapsulation of some of the problems that they have, and something they're going to have to worry about if Trey Hendrickson cannot go, certainly against the Steelers and beyond. We'll see. And if you see Josh Newton out there playing as the third corner in the rotation behind. And again, it's important to take this moment to give props to DJ Turner for the year that he's having, the way that he's playing, his best game as a pro on Sunday, and Dax Hill. Those guys have stepped up, and I would say brought stability to the secondary. But that third spot, they are searching right now, and they are giving Cam this opportunity. While they talk about his roller coaster to us every week, in between it, you're seeing it, and you have to wonder if they want off because they're a little too nauseous and they're ready to try to ride whatever Josh Newton's going to give them right now.
Obviously, the second half on defense wasn't good enough. But if I would have told you in like August when we were having our take tables and our hype trains that we were getting ready to board, if I would have told you they'd be in Green Bay with no Hendrickson, essentially no Logan Wilson because he wasn't playing, and essentially no Cam Taylor-Britt because he was impacting the game in a negative fashion on the whole. So basically, they had no contributions from any of those guys in the second half, and they still only allowed 27 points. This just isn't what we expected. We expected those guys to be arguably the defense's best 3 players, but a lot's changed since then. And then to circle back with what you're saying about Hill and Turner is a big part of the message to Cam at the start of the year was this defense, we are looking for people to pay. And they don't have they're obviously paying their superstars, but they've got room to pay guys to give extensions to, et cetera. And DJ and Dax are the ones capitalizing on that. And frankly, I mean, this season's a third of the way over. Cam had an opportunity to go ahead and make $60 million this year, and a third of the way through. I mean, that's not an exaggeration. He could have gotten that 4-year, $60 million deal. That was right there. And he's just not having anywhere near that type of season.
No, Dax and DJ are having the money seasons right now. All right, let's get into some NFL pro potpourri. What's something that stuck out to you as you were just kind of going through the tape from the Packers game that was fun to look at?
So you know how here's a reference to a movie that you've seen, Step Brothers. Okay. You've seen that. We've all seen
Step
that.
Brothers. Yeah.
You know that thing where it's like we're interviewing as a team?
Yes.
I would say that Joe Flacco is 75% of the Bengals quarterback right now, but Jamar is the other 25% of the Bengals quarterback. They're playing quarterback as a team. And while that 25% might be a bit of an exaggeration, and while Jamar has done a lot of pre-snap communication before, I mean, just look at the tight end that Tanner Hudson caught in the third quarter to cap off the 17-play drive. Tanner's like, where do I line up? Here. Jamar tells him where to go. They talk before the snap. He points again, sets Hudson up perfectly for a route that is perfectly designed. Hudson kind of cuts up the field into the end zone and then breaks at a 90-degree angle to his right past the linebacker. Touchdown. There's pointing. There's thumbs up. There's all kinds of communication between Chase and Tanner. Jamar's playing quarterback here. And this was far from the only time he did this. He did this with Tinsley. He did this with Yoshi. I think he did it with T at one point. And then my theory on this, and I'd like more information, is it kind of stopped on the last drive, the last real drive of the game. I think Jamar just had stopped doing that because all the plays were just going to him, so he didn't need to tell anyone else what to do because he had already created the play for himself. That's my theory on that series. And he knew exactly what he was seeing. He recognized all the stuff that, the Packers were pressing. At one point, I believe after this series, I saw just Jamar and Zach having a pretty long conversation at the very front of the sideline as Zach Taylor is head coaching the game. Obviously, Zach's not calling plays, but he's call timeout or something. He's active during those times. Jamar's making some good points, apparently, because then Zach goes all the way back to tell something to Flacco. So credit to Jamar for doing a lot of quarterback-y type things.
We have continued to hear, and we probably don't talk enough about it, is a consistent theme, whether with Zach Taylor or we talked about with Troy Walters right on this show last week. The leadership and maturation of Jamar has been a hugely impactful storyline behind the scenes as they've had all this adversity. It's like, the diva wide receiver idea, I use that in air quotes for those of you just listening, like that it has not only not been the case, it has been the reason that they are feeling like they can pull out of this thing a little bit is Jamar has been 100% on board with trying to fix everything, with trying to be part of the solution, and his wrapping his arms around the idea of being a captain and being there for his teammates has been massive. Now, they haven't been very good offensively, but the stuff you've seen and that you feel like there's this idea of trying to create this divide between Zach Taylor, the coaching staff, and Jamar. It's just not true. It's truly them trying to solve this thing and Jamar taking extreme ownership in ways he never has before over that. And you saw it here again in him taking ownership over the insertion of Joe Flacco at quarterback and trying to make everybody, on the same page or create touchdowns for himself, which is fun too and was cool to watch. And it's something that you probably wouldn't realize if you didn't have all the insider kind of see the way that he has talked about this type of stuff. When everyone's waiting for him to blow up, it's actually been the exact opposite.
There were even 2 plays where he literally chipped at the line of scrimmage and released. Like, think
Yeah.
about that for a second. Jamar Chase blocked to buy Flacco an extra second because of the way that set up the play. And my favorite part about his, the crazy touchdown, one of the plays of the year, was I think this is how you read it. So the ball's in the air. Zach audibly kicks. Like the left leg is up, like he's, one of the Rockettes. Left leg is up. I think, that had to have been a frustration kick, right? Like, this ball's not getting completed. Like, even the guy who has seen every catch, the alternative is that would be a weird celebration, the kick celebration. But maybe that's possible. Maybe I'm underestimating Zach's faith in Jamar. But that's how low percentage of a play, in my mind at least, watching that play unfold, what ended up being the touchdown that really got the Bengals back in it. But that's what it was. And Jamar made the play, and that Zach's foot then landed on the ground, and he called a 2-point conversion. And then he got pretty fired up because I'm still concerned about what this looks like on Thursday, but the second half showed that this could work. And I think there was some important belief that inspired in Green Bay.
All that matters about what we saw on Sunday is, was it a real bridge to winning Thursday? Like, that it felt like half real game, half preseason game.
Yeah.
In that they needed it to set the foundation for a win against the Steelers. Everything that they were doing felt like it's like, get these guys ready to go win on Thursday. And it felt like that was the case with the offense. But if they come out in the first half and are bad again, and it's still clunky, and some of the things that you were doing well, Pittsburgh has answers for, none of it really matters. And it's all not good enough, because they needed Flacco to get in when he got in so that they could have him ready to go try to beat the Steelers and get the Bengals back into this whole thing, which they can do. You'll feel like they're in a good position to do if they can win on Thursday night. I think you wrote about it in the chalkboard, and we've all kind of touched on it in different ways, is that this is a crossroads game for the season that's going to determine whether this thing feels realistic or it feels like a hard spiral. And so we'll see which way it goes, but we have a foundation to build off of. Yeah.
A story that we've told in depth on this Rewatch reaction show is the saga that Chase Brown has gone on this season. And like a nice little image here is, he went from the hands up because he didn't get the ball on the potential 80-yard touchdown run that Jake Browning didn't give him. That may have been the biggest play that got Browning benched. He went from that to Browning catching the 2-point conversion to being so fired up that he threw the ball in the stands. And that was as emotional as maybe I've ever seen Chase Brown on the field when I rewatched that on tape and noticed that reaction from him. So there's something there. And if that carries into Thursday, it's a moment. And if it doesn't, then we're having a whole different conversation. But there is something there heading into Thursday.
We will have a whole different conversation about whatever goes down on Thursday. Charlie and I will have a rewatch for you coming off of that game, so keep an eye out for that. And, of course, PD and J coming your way this week to get you prepared for Bengals Steelers, and we hope that we will see you down at our live show at BetMGM and Tom's Watch Bar as we give away tickets. We give you exclusive parlay boosts, some ice cream, some good times. What else do you want? What else do you want out of your tailgate experience? So pop on down and at least come say hi to us. We'd love to see all of you down there. All right. Thanks, everybody, for going through the tape with us and enjoying it. Thanks again to Dan Pitcher for joining the coach's office with R&A Marketing. And we'll talk to you next time. Have a good one.